Maulana Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. First of all, thanks to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala who has given us His mercies and blessing today, so we can, Alhamdulillah, meet again in the best of health and iman. Secondly, salat and salam always be delivered toward our Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam. Thirdly, Alhamdulillah, I would like to extend my thanks and appreciations to Associate Professor Dr. Muhammad Iskandar. Welcome, Doctor, in our program. Assalamualaikum.
Waalaikumsalam. Thank you so much for having me, insyaAllah.
Alhamdulillah, Dr. Iskandar has been with us today. And Doctor, before we start the discussion, actually, this program has been conducted for 4 times since 2015. And 3 years ago, we invited Prof. Asmi as well, because at the moment was still offline sessions. So he came to our university and delivered a talk in regard on the SDGs as well. And today, Alhamdulillah, we had around 120 participants from bachelor degree from 5 countries. But this 100 plus participants are divided into 4 separated courses, Doctor, actually. So one of the courses here is bank and non-bank financial institutions. And the students who are joining this course basically is around 30 students. And this program has been conducted since 19th of July, Doctor, and we will end around 20th of August. So almost 1 month. And during the programs, the student has been learned some activities and some assignments through our Learning Management Center in UMY. And they have learned so many issues regarding with the bank and non-bank financial institution, regarding with the regulatory institutions such as central banks, Islamic banks, yeah, and then other institutions, including Islamic social finance as well. And today, Alhamdulillah, we have you in our sessions, Dr. Iskandar. We will strengthen and further sharpen the understanding of the student here who are coming from various universities, including Indonesia and Malaysia. Some of them coming from IUM, USIM, UUM, Sarawak, Malaysia, and also some universities in Indonesia. And dear participants, before I give the session to Dr. Iskandar, I would like to just a bit introduce him. So Dr. Iskandar basically is right now acting as the associate professors and associate professor at International Center for Education in Islamic Finance, INCF. And also his academic background, he was graduated from PhD at Nottingham University Business Schools, and his master at University of Queensland, and his bachelor degree was at International Islamic University, Malaysia. So I am your junior, Doctor, at IIUM. Okay, Dr. Iskandar, I would like to hand over the session to you for maybe 30 minutes, and the rest maybe for 30 minutes we will have discussions and Q&A. So we will end the session maximum 10 p.m. Malaysia time or 9 a.m. Indonesian time. Dr. Iskandar, time is yours, please.
Okay, let me share my slide first. Okay, can you all see the slides?
Yes, Doctor.
Okay. Okay, Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. First of all, thank you, Dr. Dimas, for the invitation and also for the opportunity. Obviously, I've heard about this program before from my colleagues, Prof. Azmi, and also I've seen some familiar faces during the video presentation. Prof. Aslam, Prof. Mustafa, Dr. Anwar, Dr. Asmi. So I think these are the people who are actually quite close to us as well. And they have done quite a lot of work which is related to social finance, and now we are moving towards sustainability. Okay, so again, thank you for the opportunity. It's always good to speak to young people because young people have to understand the right narrative, the right perspective, and sometimes I'm sure if you have studied in UIA, we use the word worldview, and the worldview is actually changing quite rapidly now. We are looking at a number of issues, not just locally, regionally, but more importantly, globally as well. In fact, today, for those who are following, for example, some of the geopolitics issue, you probably noticed that in Afghanistan, for example, there seems to be another unrest, and we see unrest in Lebanon and Libya and Syria, so on and so forth. So in other words, as a students of Islamic finance or Islamic economics, not only you must have a competency in terms of your knowledge, but also you should be able to relate and understand the issues in the context of global phenomena. I think that's very important. And that's the purpose of my today presentation today. I can't go into detail within 30-40 minutes, but let me try my level best to share as much as I can for the benefit of the younger generations. I feel quite old now, I used to think that I'm young, but I feel that I'm not young anymore. It's been a while since I've been in academia for almost 20 years now. So I think this is a time that more and more young people understand the right worldview and join the group that promote the right values. Okay, all right. So I've been asked by Dr. Dimas. I'm not sure why this is not moving. Okay, is it moving, guys? Is it moving?
Yes, doctor.
All right. So I've been asked by Dr. Dimas to talk about financial stability, value-based intermediation, and also sustainable finance. So before I speak about all that, first of all, you probably have to understand why the world is changing. You have to understand in the context of history, right? And why, for example, value-based intermediation and sustainable finance become the conversation of the day. I think that's the most important thing, because we cannot just accept something without even questioning the conversation. Okay, I think this is one of the most important traits that students must have nowadays, is the ability to questions, the ability to understand the thought process, and also the methodology where people come out with a new guiding principle. Because in the past, you probably have to understand, especially after the Second World War, everybody was just talking about growth. All right. Why people were talking about growth? Because at that particular time, our number one enemy was poverty. So everybody believed that, economic growth is basically the essence, and it will bring people out of poverty to provide a better way of life, a higher quality, greater access to health, education, so on and so forth. And then it started from the Western hemisphere, from Europe, from America, and then eventually it moved to Asia. As you can see that now many countries in the world are growing rapidly. But as far the growth is concerned, over the years, people have seen that there are two consequences or two impact start emerging or beginning to surface. First one, the issue of inequality. Okay, so this is where I think the real issues are, not being inclusive, being excluded from the system, because there are a lot of benefit of being included within the system. So financial inclusion has to become a forefront in terms of the agenda to promote financial stability. Second, obviously, today, the issue of climate risk and sustainability, I think, become very important. And then last but not least, the issue of governance, integrity, rule of law, the quality of institutions are even becoming more and more important as well. So in other words, the growth that we have experienced over the years, which is supported by a leap in terms of our knowledge, in terms of automation, technology, scientific, innovative models, so on and so forth, have bring us to a quality of life that we have never enjoyed before. Okay, today internet is something that we take for granted in many parts of the world. For example, access to education, access to clean water. So many of the things that people have not even enjoyed in the past, this is something that quite an accepted norms in the context of today's world. However, we fail to understand that the model that we have used today have created what we call as a tension between the have and the have-nots, between the balance in the society, the balance in terms of the ecosystem, and then the balance in terms of our governance structure. So the key word which I'm trying to highlight today is the word what we call as the balance. So what I'm trying to talk about is that what is fair to the people. Okay, so this is a big thing which exactly that we are trying to highlight. Because in order for you to create financial sustainability or financial stability, for example, what do you mean by financial stability? You have a system that works for everyone. It can channel the resources, it can bring the best market outcome, it can ensure, for example, resilient, it can promote growth and without causing much damage to the economy, and more importantly, that you can have a system that able to sustain any external shocks. So there are many definitions of stability in the context of what we understand today. So is stability important? Yes. You know why? Because today everything is interrelated. You have a health crisis, and then it translates into economic crisis, and then it translates into social crisis, and then it translates into political crisis, and so on and so forth. So as you can see, if you are not able to create a resilient economy or a stable economy, this is what you're going to get. And this is not something new in Indonesia. Probably in 1998, you probably know how Indonesia went through a process of transformation, politically. And then a lot of reform took place economically. And today, Indonesia is what it is because of many reform agenda that happened in the past. And the same thing with Malaysia and China, for example, who went through cultural revolutions and so on and so forth. So you see what you see today because people learn from the past. So as a student of economy, right, you must understand that our moral obligation to the world is to create a system that works and function for everyone. I think that's very important. And whenever we try to do that, we fail to understand is that a policy that inclusive is not easy. Why? Because you have different spectrum of society. You have the oligarchs, you have the politician, you have the top 20%, you have the bottom 40%, or you have the middle income, that drive the economy. So the policy making becoming more and more complex. And now you bringing the element of climate into it, it becoming even more complex. All right. So I actually pity you guys because the policy making today is much more harder than the policy making in the past because the complexity of the society and the interconnected of the elements that we are talking about today. So we cannot simply grow like in the past. Okay, build factory, destroy the forest, use slavery, labor, cheap labor. It doesn't work that anymore because people are becoming more conscious as far as the ESG is concerned, so on and so forth. So, and that's one side. The other side is that you have a financial system that interconnected. You have a banking system, you have a stock market, and then more people become more inclusive. So everyone is actually interconnected. So you cannot basically create a shock in one system and without saying that, okay, don't worry about this group of people, they are insulated. It doesn't work that way anymore because we all are connected because of the trade and so on and so forth. And this is where I think the complexity is becoming a big challenge for us. However, having said that, and this is a very simple diagram, and I always use this diagram. And for young people, I always encourage you to read Robert Shiller, one of my favorite author as well, because he always try to approach the economics and finance from the behavioral perspective. And it's very interesting when you look at the dimension. And for me, a lot of things that he said make sense because economics is not just about dealing with rationality. Economics is also about dealing with irrational agents within the system. And the moment you start blending in rationality and irrationality, then people start looking at the new concept, like say like bounded rationality, and how you define, for example, the rationality will define your policy making as well. Because you have to remember one thing: policy making is always about understanding the actions of the people, of the agents, and you are trying to basically push them toward a certain collective behavior, because you incentivize them to behave in a certain way, because that is the best way to unlock the market power. So I hope you understand, because the moment you unlock the market power, you create the incentive so that people behave in a certain way, then you can say that, okay, my policies are shaping the market toward a certain actions. Okay, why this thing is important? Because we are talking about stability. So in other words, they are fundamental of stability. So for example, what is fundamental of stability? You don't have excessive risk-taking behavior. You have basically a debt level which is manageable. You don't have speculative behavior in the market. And if you bring in Islamic finance, you must make sure that there is a risk-sharing elements, there is a asset-backed elements. So all these things are actually a decision making. So you want the people to behave and to make decision according to what you decided for them. Okay, and it's not easy, right? For example, if you take Indonesia, 280 million people. You got Javanese, you got the Malay, you got the Bugis, and you have so many people, right? So how you create an incentive structure in such a way that they behave in the way that you want them to behave? Not easy. In the past, you create incentive, okay, better salary, better housing, and so on and so forth. But today, it's not only about build a house. You need to build, for example, a sustainable house. And today, for example, it's not just about having a good job, but it's about having a sustainable job. And they give you satisfaction, for example. They give you the room to grow, for example. So it's much more complex. So what I'm trying to say here is that the point that I'm trying to make is that especially as a young graduate, I want you to observe and go out there. Of course, now is COVID. I'm sorry, Dr. Dimas. I don't want to be promoting COVID among young people. But when things get better, go out there and try to observe people behavior. And this is something that I do sometimes. I just go to the mall, I sit down, I look at how people do shopping. Sometimes I look at TikTok just to see how people behave and everything, because collective behavior is what decide the economy. Okay, let me just give you an example, right? 10 years ago, if you follow Instagram, for example, you're not going to make money, because who cares about Instagram 10 years ago? But today, majority of the artists are making tons of money from Instagram. Am I right or not? Okay. So why, for example, Instagram become popular? Because from one person, it become 2%, it become 4%, it become 8%, and then it compounded, and then now it's become a collective behavior. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that in order for you to create a good collective behavior, then you need to create a better incentive structure. Okay, so this is the point that I'm trying to make. And excitingly, the collective behavior is changing very rapidly. Why so? Because the technology is changing and the way of life is changing. Let me give you an example. During my days, having a house is important. Okay, it's important. Okay, but in Europe nowadays, having a house is not important. So people are moving away from possessions just to, renting, because they don't care about what they have anymore. They just concerned about the quality of life. So during my grandfather time, he will sacrifice everything and save money just to make sure that they can buy a nice house and educate their children. But today, if you look at younger generation, they spend 15 ringgit, or I'm not sure in rupiah is how much, to buy a coffee. Okay. For example, in Indonesia, how much is a coffee in Starbucks? Berapa, Dr. Dimas?
50,000.
50,000. But 50,000 is a lot of money, right? But people are willing to spend for one coffee. Because I remember taking a cab from Jakarta to airport is about 75,000 rupiah, something like that, or 100,000 rupiah. Betul? Betul kan, Dr. Dimas kan? About 100,000. That means people are willing to have a coffee for half of the price. And this is the current generation. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that you must understand the collective behavior in the past and the collective behavior today is not the same. Okay, so you cannot study economics today and saying that, okay, this is how the economics will be in the future. This is the fundamental mistake that a lot of people are doing. So the policy making should become more and more dynamics. Okay, and the policy making should reflect the collective behavior of the agents, which is the people. Okay, and in order for you to understand the people, you need to talk to them. You need to speak to them. You need to document them. You need to research them. You need to basically understand them, what exactly they do, and figure out how they think and what they do and how they feel about certain things. Okay. So someone asked me lah, Doc, you suka tengok TikTok I boleh cakap Melayu tau. So dia kata, Doc, you suka tengok TikTok I kata, I memang suka tengok TikTok. Bukan apa, I tengok TikTok ni, semua orang boleh cakap Melayu kan, Dr. Dimas, dalam grup ni, boleh kan?
Ya, boleh. Boleh
kan? Okay. So dia kata, Doktor, you suka tengok TikTok? Kata, buat apa tengok TikTok, Doktor? Tak, I suka tengok people, understand people punya behavior. Dulu, nobody wants to dance openly. Alright, I've never seen people dance and put up the video and for the world to see. Betul tak? But today, common. Okay? Today, people like sharing about their life. They want to tell them everything, where they eat, where they go for coffee, who's their friend, everything they want to share. And this is a new trend, and this is a collective behavior. And what is the outcome of it? It creates a lot of pressure for material life. People want expensive handbag. People want expensive watches. People want to have dinner at a very posh area because it's very important for them to show in their social media that this is what matters. And this putting a lot of pressure in terms of their lifestyle, in terms of their possession, and so on and so forth. So the world is actually changing. So the same thing, the growth that we have experienced today, even though today people are having more than what people had in the past, still majority of the people are unhappy. Betul tak, Dr. Dimas? Am I right or not? People still want more and more. Okay, so the problem by having more and more is that, and I'm sure you have studied this thing in your economic class, there's no such thing as a free lunch. Okay, there's no such thing as a free lunch. When you want more and more, you can only do it by producing more. Okay, and unfortunately, whenever you produce more, you will destroy or you will disrupt the ecosystem because nothing is free. Am I right or not? If you want more furniture, you have to cut down the tree. You want to have more food, you need to produce more palm oil. So you will involve deforestation. So this idea of growth and this idea of consuming more is become now our number one enemy. Okay, and I'm not against growth. Remember, I'm not against growth. I'm just saying that there is a price, and this price is real. If you follow the news, this year alone, There are so many wildfire that have ravages the forest in Turkey, in Greece, in California, and then you see flood in Europe. And I'm sure in one of the reasons why Jakarta is actually being moved from Jakarta, capital of Jakarta, moved from Jakarta to Kalimantan, is because of the climate risk as well. Betul tak, Dr. Imas? Right? Okay. So there's nothing free in this world. So when there's nothing free in this world, when our collective behavior is still want more, we want more and more and more. So this is where people start realize that, oh my God, this is not sustainable. So we need to come up with a new concept called sustainable finance. So what is sustainable finance? It's very simple. Okay. How do you create a balanced life without harming the ecosystem? At the same time, ensure your stakeholders are able to live continuously from one generation to another generation. So in other words, the prosperity of the one generation doesn't come at the expense of the other generations. Okay, so that means you still allow growth, you still allow economic mobility, you still allow social mobility, but you are not harming the ecosystem. Okay, and that's very important. Okay, and let me tell you, climate risk is real. Don't think that it's not going to happen to Malaysia and Indonesia. It is real. You know, rising seawater and the water temperature become warmer, what will happen is that it will destroy the marine ecosystem, and we will not get enough protein. When we don't get enough protein, then we will not have a balanced diet. And when we don't have a balanced diet, you probably know lah, whenever pandemic comes, like COVID, people who don't have a good immune system, they are the first one who gonna die. Agree or not? Yeah. Okay. And in fact, this COVID happened because of what we call as the destruction of the forest. The animal are getting closer and closer to human beings. So there's a damage and in biodiversity. So now we have COVID. Okay. And now you can see the damage that the COVID has done. And I'm sure if you are not learning from COVID, I do not know what else to say. Because I think this COVID, in my lifetime, this is probably one of the worst thing I have seen in my life. You know, even in Malaysia, every day now, almost 200 to 300 people are dying. I think Indonesia is like 1,000 over people are dying. Am I right or not? 1,000 people. So in Malaysia, it's like every day one plane is crashing. Like, okay, today one plane crash. You know, in Indonesia, every day one ship is sinking. You know, that is how many people are dying on daily basis because we are not finding a balanced lifestyle. Okay, and sustainable lifestyle. Okay, so the point that I'm trying to make here is that, okay, whenever you as a student of economics, you must able to believe that, you know, by studying economics, your job is to provide the right narrative and the right policies. Okay, Indonesia cannot become a passenger anymore. You know, you cannot become a passenger anymore. You are a global powerhouse. Okay, so when you are a global powerhouse, you have to behave like a global powerhouse. So in other words, you have to export solution and policy to other Muslim countries. Okay, that is basically Indonesian. Because I always believe that if there is any revival of the Muslim world, it will come from 5 countries: Indonesia, Pakistan, Egypt, Iran, and apa lagi, one more country. I dah tak ingat dah. What is the other biggest Muslim country? Iran, Egypt, Pakistan, Indonesia. There's one more. No, not Bangladesh. There's one more big Muslim countries. I think they are quite important. I can't remember. Nantilah when I remember. Turkey. Sorry, now I remember Turkey. Turkey. 5. And I always tell my student in Malaysia, since Malaysia is a blessed country, we should provide, you know, the framework for all these 5 countries, you know, because they are the actual players. They have the population, they have the people, they have the resources, and they can revive, for example, the glory days of the Muslim world. Of course, there are many other Muslim countries that are doing well as well, like Qatar, in fact, Saudi Arabia is also very important, so on and so forth. But the point that I'm trying to make here is that Indonesia cannot become a passenger anymore. That's basically my point. So why sustainability is very important. Okay, so these are some of the presentation that prepared by my student in their classes when I teach sustainable finance. So I just use their slide because it's actually quite good. So why we must basically consider sustainability? Okay, let me tell you one thing. One of the reasons why we are seeing so many of destruction is that not because the problem of the capitalism, is actually some of the gaps in the capitalism. Okay, so we cannot simply say, oh, capitalism is a problematic and we want to discount capitalism and we want to come up with a new guiding principle. It doesn't work that way, because the beauty about capitalism is that is belief in the market. Okay, and market decide what to produce, how to produce, when to produce, and so on and so forth. And it's a very powerful tool because it requires minimal intervention from the government. Because if you allow government to do everything, then you become a socialism. And socialism is proven to be a failure. All right. And then you have fascism, So in other words, capitalism that we see today have gone through many layers of challenges and they still survive. However, there are gaps. Okay. And that's why we are pushing with the sustainable finance, because the gaps that capitalism have created are now we are seeing the damage. Okay, and the damage is real. COVID is the outcome of the greed and the gaps in the capitalism. Okay, the destruction of Amazon forest. This is all because of unchecked capitalism. During my days, okay, Dr. Dimas, when I have to stop, Dr. Dimas? Lagi berapa minit? 10 minit ada? Ada lagi 10 minit?
Yeah, 15 minutes more, doctor.
Okay. You just let me know lah. Saya ni kalau cakap nanti kan tak henti-henti pula. Just stop saya je. Okay. Itulah saya malas nak cakap ni. Okay. Just stop me whenever the time is up, just stop me je. Okay, the point that I'm trying to make here is that whenever you have a gap in capitalism, and we can see the outcome of capitalism punya gap. Example lah, dulu zaman saya nak jadi jutawan pun susah. Okay, nak jadi jutawan pun susah. Nak ada 1 juta pun susah. Of course lah, kat Indonesia 1 juta senang sikit lah, sebab 1 juta rupiah senang sikit lah. Tapi dekat Malaysia 1 juta pun susah. Sekarang ni orang dah tak sebut dah jutawan. Orang semua sebut billionaire sekarang. Betul? So even dekat Amerika berebut-rebut billionaire, dekat India billionaire, dekat China billionaire. So macam mana kita boleh create these so many billionaires? Very simple. Satu, kita ada financial system yang allow that to happen. Kedua, kita ada technology yang allow that to happen. Contohnya, Apple. Company Apple je. Dulu few people je started Apple. Mungkin sekarang berapa pekerja dia? 20,000, 30,000. Tapi Apple sekarang bernilai 2 trilion US dollar. 2 trilion US dollar. Kalau kali duit Malaysia, bersamaan dengan 8 trilion US dollar. Okay. Malaysia satu negara, kekayaan dia hanyalah 4 trilion US dollar saja. Maksudnya, Apple boleh jual company dia, datang Malaysia, beli satu Malaysia, dapat lagi free satu Malaysia. Faham tak? So, itu adalah kekayaan yang dicipta hanyalah menggunakan minda, fikiran, dan teknologi dan juga financial system yang allow that to happen. So these are all the power of capitalism. Tapi kalau kita tak digunakan dengan baik, so akan adalah isu-isu. So sebab tu we have to bring in the element of sustainability. Sebab apa kita nak bring in the sustainability? Satu je. Because we want to keep in check the problems of capitalism. Itu saja. Okay, so I'm not saying that we should remove capitalism, no. Tapi kita kena blend with something which is more powerful, which is what we call as a sustainability. And then sustainability pun dalam Islamic pun very sama je. Dalam Islam ada maqasid, protection of people, protection of wealth, protection of progeny, sama je. So kalau you talk about sustainability, sama je. Protect about planet, alam sekitar dan sebagainya, be more transparent, better governance. So tak ada apa pun yang sustainability ni yang benda yang baru. Apa yang baru dalam sustainability? Apa yang Islam cakap semua dah dicakap sebelum ni pun dah cakap. Cuma masalah kita orang Islam ni kita tak buat, itu je. Kita cakap pandai. So kita sekarang ni kita kena buat. And kita tak boleh kata buat ni, sorry to say this, kita tak boleh buat macam individually buat. Dia tak boleh. Sebab bila individually kita buat, it's not powerful. Tapi bila country buat, individually and collectively with the country punya policy, baru boleh jadi role model. Baru people akan datang, okay, we want to go to Indonesia. Indonesia, digital economy dia power. Social finance dia power. Okay, we want to learn from Indonesia. So baru it become powerful. Because today, if you look at the Muslim world, kita cakap pasal sustainability, but transparency tak ada. Kita cakap pasal good governance, tapi reporting hangus. So whenever you embrace sustainability, whether you like it or not, you have to follow the sustainable framework. And the moment you follow the sustainable framework, you are moving closer to Islamic values as well. So why you need to follow sustainable? Because if you don't follow sustainable, satu, you will see the damage. Okay, satu, you will see the damage. Okay, you will be basically bear the brunt of the climate change. Okay, ikan tak ada. Contohlah ikan tak ada. So nak makan ikan macam mana? So nak dapat protein kat mana? Simple lah, saya bagi contoh yang simple lah kan. So nak dapat protein macam mana? Tak ada. So simple je. And you cannot live in the world where it's not connected. And remember, food security is very important. Indonesia, you tahulah dulu masa zaman, I tak tahulah you all ingat lagi tak, zaman 1998 dulu, waktu BJ Habibie jadi presiden, ingat lagi ke Dr. Dimas? Ingat lagi kan Dr. Dimas? Dr. Dimas mungkin ingat lagi kot, waktu tu kat mana? Kat UIA ke Dr. Dimas? Waktu tu?
I'm still in elementary school.
Muda lagi. So Dr. Dimas muda lagi. Waktu 1998 tu dulu, waktu tu Indonesia masa tu susah kan. BJ Habibie kata rakyat Indonesia minta puasa sebab tak cukup beras. Saya ingat lagi. Presiden minta puasa sebab tak cukup bekalan beras. Tapi sekarang Indonesia cukup mewah. Tapi kemewahan ni tak akan kekal kalau polisi kita tak bagus. Okay, so lepas 98 tu banyak polisi reform yang berlaku di Indonesia. So kita kena amalkan konsep-konsep sustainability ni, bukan untuk kita nak saja-saja suka everybody is talking about sustainability and we want to attract investment and so on and so forth. Okay, last 5 minutes. So how to implement sustainability? Okay, very simple. In order for you to implement sustainability, the government or the leaders must come up with grand ideas. Idea yang besar. Okay, what we call as a market shaping. Okay, so in other words, the government must put sustainability as the priority agenda for that particular country. So, kita mesti amalkan circular economy. Kita mesti go high on renewable energy. Maksudnya kita remove hydrocarbon slowly. Contohnya negara yang dah hydrocarbon, yang dah buang 100% fossil fuel adalah Iceland. Iceland 100% pakai renewable energy. Okay. So Indonesia berapa? Malaysia kata another 10 years mungkin kita akan reach about 40% renewable energy. Lepas tu electric vehicle. Sejauh mana kita nak guna electric vehicle. Lepas tu sejauh mana kita nak kurangkan plastik contohnya. Semua benda ni haruslah menjadi priority kepada government untuk menjadikan sebagai agenda utama kerajaan tersebut. Okay. So maybe susah nak buat sekarang, but you have to start somewhere. Because it's not easy tau. Oh, Dr. Iskandar kata kita kena buat electric vehicle punya transformation. It's not easy. Bila you buat policy, baru you tahu. Contohnya you nak buat sustainable housing. Macam mana guna clean energy, macam mana guna water recycle apa semua tu. Benda tu semua susah because you need design, you need technology, you need basically investment, you need impact factor. Tapi inilah tujuan kita cakap dengan orang muda. Supaya orang-orang muda macam you all ni believe that okay, one day I want to contribute to sustainable agenda. So kalau you duduk OJK ke, you duduk Bank Indonesia ke, ataupun you duduk mana-mana agensi ke, you become the champion of sustainability. And sama juga Islamic finance. Macam mana Islamic finance boleh berkembang kalau tak ada champion? So kena ada champion, kena ada orang yang percaya pada Islamic finance. So samalah. Kalau kat Indonesia, dia bukan setakat percaya pada Islamic finance, dia percaya pada syariah ekonomi. Betul kan Dr. Dimas kan? Dia percaya pada syariah ekonomi. So kena ada champion. So bila implement baru nampak result. So apa itu syariah ekonomi? Inklusif, tak ada riba dan sebagainya. Tapi susah nak tunjuk dia punya bukti dia. Tapi kalau saya datang ke Indonesia, saya tengok okay, Indonesia makin maju, rakyat makin happy. Kes keciciran makin berkurangan, hutang makin berkurangan contohnya, entrepreneurship makin berkembang, inovatif ekonomi makin berkembang contohnya. Itu menunjukkan bukti-bukti bahawa syariah ekonomi dan juga sustainable framework ni berjaya. Kita tak boleh nak bercakap dengan orang kalau tak ada proof of concept. Sembang bodoh je. Sorry to use the word, tapi sembang kosong je. Tahu tak sembang kosong? Ngongek, lepas tu tak ada apa. So kita tak nak jadi insan-insan macam tu. Sebab kita ni hidup kat dunia ni bukannya lama sangat pun. Paling kuat dapat berapa? 40 tahun, 50 tahun, 70 tahun lah paling kuat. Sekarang ni dengan COVID, dapat 40 tahun pun dah kira okey dah. Tak tahu dah sekarang ni, bila-bila je dengan COVID ni. Kawan saya 3-4 hari, sekejap aja dengar cerita, dah tak ada. Hari ni tengok Facebook, hari-hari takziah dan sebagainya. So apa yang saya nak cuba sampaikan kat sini ialah, kalau saya boleh berhenti kat sini, banyak slide nanti saya boleh bagilah. Ini pun slide yang student saya pun boleh buat, tak kisah pun. Boleh share. So nanti you boleh tengok macam mana knowledge kan kita share supaya lagi tu. So biar saya berhenti di sini. Cuma saya nak sampaikan kat sini ialah, the last point that I'm trying to make here is that we need more and more people. We need more leaders in the Muslim world. And we need people who are ambitious. People who believe that, they can do something and they can actually change the world. It's been years Muslim world are left behind. Been years Muslim world are left behind. Kita Olimpik pun tak boleh cari makan. Ekonomi pun tak boleh cari makan. Semua tempat kita tak boleh cari makan. We are not even capable to compete at the global level. Kita tak ada kita punya own Silicon Valley. Kita tak ada kita punya own space program. Kita tak ada kita punya own vaksin. Kita tak ada own biotechnology. Quantum computing pun kita tak ada. Everyone is talking about supercomputer. Semua tak ada. Semua terkebelakang. Okay? Why? Because we are just producing the numbers. We are not producing quality people. And the only reason I tanya Dr. Dimas, I cakap dengan siapa ni? Dr. Dimas kata cakap dengan orang muda. Okey lah, kita cakap dengan orang muda. So the reason cakap dengan orang muda ni sebab you all ada masa lagi. 20 tahun, 30 tahun, 40 tahun. So decide lah dengan masa yang Allah berikan kepada you all ni, what you want to do with your life. Okay, decide now what you want to do with your life. And seek knowledge and never stop learning. And try to become an outstanding Muslim with a good character, honesty, integrity, competency, humility. So ini adalah karakter-karakter yang kita perlukan. Dan insya-Allah with the right policies, and I think Indonesia today are making huge progress, leap and bounds. Insya-Allah. Saya selalu doakan Indonesia ni jadi hebat. Saya selalu cakap dengan kawan-kawan saya dekat Malaysia, kita penting ada jiran yang hebat. Barulah kita pun jadi hebat. Sebab kalau Indonesia hebat, contohnya, orang Indonesia akan shopping kat Malaysia. Dia nak pergi mana? Paling dekat Malaysia. Betul tak Dr. Dimas? Betul tak? Kan? Paling kuat dekat Malaysia. Takkan nak pergi Singapore all the time. Boring, Singapore kecil. Pergi Malaysia. So, siapa yang akan untung? Malaysia juga yang akan untung. So, lebih baik ada jiran yang kaya daripada ada jiran yang tak kaya. Itu polisi saya. So, kita kena berjaya bersama. Macam orang selalu kata, kita ni satu rumpun, satu bangsa. So, kita kena berjaya, kita kena jadi hebat kerana banyak lagi negara-negara Islam yang memerlukan pertolongan dan juga bantuan kita untuk kita membangunkan ekonomi diorang. Tengok sajalah dekat mana-mana problem dia. Syria, Afghanistan, Lebanon, Libya, Algeria, Yemen, cakap aja. Dr. Dimas mungkin tahu ni kot. Saya nak berhenti dekat sini dengan kata macam ni lah. Sebab saya pun dulu belajar di UIA. So bila saya belajar di UIA, dulu masalah dia Palestin je. So imam selalu berdoa, ya Allah tolonglah sahabat-sahabat kita di Palestin. Lepas tu problem Syria pula. Okey, tambah Syria. Lepas tu Afghanistan pula, tambah Afghanistan. Lepas tu lama-lama doa pun makin lama makin panjang. So imam pun dah penat. So dalam bahasa Arab, kalau semua tempat ni dia panggil fi kulli makan. So dalam bahasa Arab ni panggil fi kulli makan. So imam tu kata, ya Allah fi kulli makan. Maksudnya semualah orang Islam yang di mana-mana. So itu menunjukkan bahawa betapa sedihnya nasib umat kita. Adik-adik tak tahu. Mungkin kat Indonesia mungkin tak berlaku lagi. Tapi di negara-negara seperti Libya dan Algeria dan Morocco, setiap hari orang sanggup bergadai nyawa merentasi lautan Mediterranean untuk ke Europe. Dan berapa ramai yang mati lemas dengan anak-anak kecil diorang disebabkan kita tidak boleh bangunkan ekonomi diorang. Ini anak-anak muda kita yang sebangsa dan seagama dengan kita. So itulah saya rasa pentingnya kita bangunkan ekonomi kita dan solution yang kita bawa ni dikongsi bersama dengan negara-negara yang lain supaya kita boleh maju bersama insya-Allah. Bukan untuk hidup mewah di dunia ni, tak perlu pun hidup mewah kat dunia ni. Hidup ni tak ada apa sangat pun. Tapi supaya kita hidup dengan kuat, dengan hebat dan kita perlukan guiding principle. So guiding principle itulah Islamic economy dan juga sustainability. So Dr. Dimas, with that, thank you so much. Assalamualaikum. Kalau ada apa-apa soalan, insya-Allah saya cuba jawab. Okay.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Thank you, Dr. Iskandar, for your sharing. I'm so happy and remember the experience when we were in Malaysia a few years ago, when we were talking about Malay language. So I just memorizing 10 years ago when I was there during my master and PhD at IUM. There are something that interesting, the participant from Dr. Iskandar presentations, that the sustainability issue become very important in existing condition, whereby the vulnerability, uncertainty, and ambiguity, and the situation whereby is not stable. Yeah, so that the balancing, look for the balance between economics, environments, and social are very important in current situations. And also there is also giving us the motivations as young generations how to be more struggling in seeking knowledge, experience, and then how to be become the models of the leaders of tomorrow. Okay, I just give you maybe a few minutes because we will end around 9 p.m. Indonesian time, or 10 p.m. Malaysian time. So I give you the chance, sisters and brothers, please mention your name and where university coming from, and then your question to Dr. Iskandar. Please, time is yours.
Doctor, if I may ask.
Yes, please, Hajar.
So, second doctors, my name is Hajar and I'm also from IIUM.
Okay, good.
What I want to ask is that, how is green economy achievable when most GDPs are based on fossil fuels? For example, some countries like Malaysia, we are heavily dependent on fossil fuels and petroleum.
Okay, I think that's a very important question. this is where I think the transition of the policies should happen. And the transition should happen gradually with a clear milestone. Because the thing kan Hajar kan, whenever people wants to shift kan, the problem is that people will always shift from one goalpost to the other goalpost, and then they will disrupt the system. So this is where I think a clear transition policy should take place, and then transition should always happen gradually. Okay, let me give you one example lah. Whenever people come to power kan, the first thing they will come up with the rhetoric is that, okay, I want to reduce corruption by 100%. And we all know that it's impossible to reduce corruption, let's say, by 100%. Am I right or not? So it's better to reduce corruption, for example, every year by 5%. Okay, and then 5% and so on and so forth. So the same thing with Malaysian economy as well. The moment you start having a policy to diversify your economy from hydrocarbon to clean energy, okay, and then automatically you will not see so much of disruptions. Because if not, if we don't diversify pun, eventually everybody will move to electric vehicle. Okay, so today why Tesla is so valuable, for your information, Tesla value has gone up by almost 400% in the last 2 years because of this pandemic. Of course lah, there's a lot of speculative punya element as well, but one of the most exciting things about Tesla in the last 2 years was they were able to develop a charging technology from 2 hours of charging to, let's say, to 5 to 10 minutes of charging. So the moment you create that technology, automatically electric vehicle become a viable solution, and that disrupt the whole thing. So now electrical vehicle punya technology become more viable, and the world will move towards that. Then automatically Malaysia punya hydrocarbon punya policy will become irrelevant. Okay, so there are two ways: either the market forces change us, or we decided to change the policy gradually. Alhamdulillah, the good thing about Malaysia is that there are still a lot of smart people out there who already create the path for sustainable development in the Malaysian context. However, the political will and also the progress that we are making are not leap and bounds. So this is always the problem in Malaysia. It's not leap and bounds. In other words, when I say not leap and bounds ni maksudnya we are always the follower. Okay, and we have to change from the mindset being a follower to become a leader lah. So this is where I think people like you all, the younger generation, has to be more proactive, especially when it comes to sustainable agenda.
Okay, Sister Hajar, is it answered or we want to reply?
It is quite is answerable. Thank you, Dr.
Okay, Doctor, I just want to continue what Hajar's just now questions. In the context of public policy, somehow this dilemma or trade-off between the focusing on economics point of view or political point of view, somehow, yeah. So according to your experience, how to look for the balance actually between the economic and politics, so that the goals that you said just now become reality?
Okay. All right. So the thing that we all have to understand is that when we talk about economics and politics, right, the meeting point between economics and politics are the stakeholders. Okay. So when you talk about where the politics and economy meets, actually the stakeholders. So it has to be very clear that how you define your stakeholders. So that's very important. So who are your stakeholders? So obviously when it comes to governance, the stakeholders are actually the people, right? Okay. So you want to create what is the best for your people. So this is where some countries are having higher quality of life than the other countries, because your policies are to make or to create what we call as a more inclusive society and more balanced society, and you're trying to basically create a system where you allow everybody to prosper. But the moment you break that change of connections between the politics and also economics, okay, then you create this tension between what the politics trying to achieve and what exactly the economics trying to achieve. You see my point? Okay, let me give you a simple example so that you all can actually understand what I'm trying to say. Okay, And let me give you a Malaysian example as well. And I'm sure you probably have heard quite a number of example which is related to what I'm about to say. I do not know whether you follow the history of Malaysian economy. You know, in the past, we always want to fight poverty. So we created Dasar Ekonomi Baru, and we want to enrich quite a number of people. We create scholarship, you know, we empower, so on and so forth. Okay, so the focus were more towards people-centric. Okay, but over time, not just in Malaysia, but also in many parts of the world, you start to see that, you know, the stakeholders' engagement seems to be diminishing. Okay, I give you one example. The salary of the CEO of government-linked companies. Okay, without telling the name, there's one company which is owned by the parent company. The parent company pay dividend only 2% because their argument is we didn't make that much money. Okay, but the subsidiary makes so much money, they in fact pay the CEO the salary about 10 million per year. Okay, remember, the profit of the parent company depends on the subsidiary. Am I right or not? Am I right or not? Parent, subsidiary kan? So parent kata we didn't make enough money, so we only give you 2%. But the subsidiary CEO make about 10 million. 10 million ringgit, you know. I'm not sure in rupiah, probably dah billion lah kot. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that there seems to be a disconnection between why you created a company is basically to enrich people who are politically connected and people who support your agenda rather than the people agenda. So if you have that kind of system in any part of the world, there's no meeting point anymore. The moment there is no meeting point anymore, you will find a tension between your conscious, your ethical decision, and also your desire in terms of creating values. Because you are no longer creating value for the people, but you are creating value for yourself. Okay, and that will create more and more inequality problem. So a lot of people say, you know, the COVID ni not racist. Everybody will get COVID. COVID doesn't know whether you are rich or poor. Yes, but most people who are died basically are poor. Right? In America, for example, most people who died because they are blacks, they are Hispanics. Why? Because they don't have access to healthcare. And I'm sure Indonesia, so many people die at home because they cannot go to hospital. Am I right or not? Okay. So this is actually the fundamental problem that happening in the context of today's world. So why I spoke about sustainability? Because one of the elements of sustainability is governance. And governance include the salary of the CEO as well. Okay, so the salary of the CEO cannot be too much gap between the CEO and also the normal executive. But today in Malaysia, I think Hajar from Malaysia, probably she knows. Today in Malaysia, the CEO of the GLC in Malaysia, the salary is 300 times more than the normal exec. So people like Hajar will graduate or study so hard in UIA, go through all the stress, and she has to work, let's say, for 3,000 ringgit. And even for that 3,000 ringgit, they will ask her to do this lah, must be good in computer lah, must be able to speak Mandarin lah, must be able to work long hours lah, all kind of requirement for 3,000 ringgit, but the CEO get 10 million. So this is not sustainable, even not Islamic. But we implement, we do it. So this is fundamental problem. Sebab tu I kata, sorry to use the word, kita jangan jadi manusia yang ngongek-ngongek, cakap aja. Oh, Islamic, lalas tak buat. Buang masa. You see my point? Buang masa. Don't destroy the good name of Islam. You want to show that you are Islamic, do it. That's, for me, that's very simple. You know, you think what? The world is not watching the Muslim world? The world is watching what? You tell me lah. Okay, you tell me lah, guys. Sorry to say this. You tell me lah. One Muslim country can become a role model. Tell me lah. Tu cakap. Tu cakap. Okay lah, Turkey, Qatar maybe, Abu Dhabi maybe. Okay lah, adalah few countries yang progressive. Tapi collectively, mana? One country yang kata, okay, we have the best university in the world. Mana? So this is actually my problem lah. Okay, so of course I cannot share my problem with you all lah. Tapi since you are young people, I'm just hoping that before I close my eyes, there will be a hope from your generation lah. Okay, Dr. Cukup lah. Ada
Okay.
lagi soalan?
Okay, another questions, please, sisters.
Let me ask, sir.
Okay, please, Jaja.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. My name is Jaja Haryono, doctor
Okay,
from IAI Bunga Bangsa Cirebon. Permission to ask, what is your opinion or view on the massive technology development and of young people who are trapped in the debt from financial technology for a lifestyle that's viral in social media? And second, my question is, what shall we prepare to face such a massive future economic and social development? Thank you.
Okay. All right. I think that's a very, let me stop sharing first lah. Okay. I think that's a very interesting questions lah you ask lah. The thing that you need to understand, one thing is that in the past, right, again, you have to understand the historical perspective. In the past, right, numbers means a lot. Or if you are 200 million, you are better than 100 million. Am I right or not? Numbers means a lot because you create value from numbers. Today, I just give you an example. WhatsApp, for example, only got about 49 employees. 49, okay? But their value is much more. Okay? Snapchat, you take all the tech companies lah. Okay? So what the technology have shown us, you can create much value with lesser number of people. You can easily scale up and create a multi-billion-dollar company with the right technology and with the right solutions. So in other words, what the world is actually moving is that the world is moving from just commodity, from manufacturing to knowledge-based economy. Okay? So your ability to think and your ability to cognitively put the problems, the complex problem and create a solutions that will define your relevancy. Okay? So that's why people don't care anymore what degree you have. People don't care, because there are so many people got degree nowadays. All right? Why we should hire you if you're just another numbers? No. What we want is that today is that we want people who can actually bring solutions. So that's the answer to your first question. So in other words, you cannot run away kan? Siapa nama Jaja okay. You cannot run away from understanding what will be the future technology. For example, what will define the future technology? Number one, 3D printing. All right. Number two, quantum computing. Okay. And then number three, anything to do with nanotechnology. Okay. And then biotech, for examples. Okay. So all this technology will become more and more valuable than fossil fuel that under the, that can be generated from our soils lah. Okay, so always remember that. So please be familiar with the direction of the technology. So that's why it's very important. 3D printing, for example, will change a lot of things, including affordable housing. 3D printing will become very powerful tool in terms of creating housing solutions. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that we cannot run away from technology. In the future, I envision this world, people will live in a very simple house. People just need a laptop, a mobile phone, and also maybe a laptop. That's enough for them. They don't need really anything else. Okay, because anything can be done using your phone and also your laptop, and maybe you will have a bicycle, and you will have a simple house. You're not going to have too much of borrowing. You might not even have a debt, because your life is always about simplicity, not about materialism anymore. Okay, that will be defining the future of your generation. That's number one. Number two, since you're talking about social media, okay, this one I digress sikit Dr. Dimas, like sikit je. Okay, bukan nak bagi nasihat lah, since he asked about social media. You see, the social media is a pressure of acceptance. You want to be relevant. Betul tak? You want to be relevant. So people use social media because they want to be relevant. There is a pressure to be relevant. There's a pressure to be successful. And social media allows you to achieve that. Okay. Unfortunately, a lot of people think success without competency is a real success. Do you understand or not? Okay, you tak ada apa-apa, tapi just because you are dancing in your TikTok or whatever you do, and people like you, so you think that is a success. So today generation, there are a lot of people who think they are successful, but actually they are not. So there's a big hollow in it, right? And trust me, somebody who's much older than you, the actual success in life is when you are competent, when you are able to do whatever that you believe you want to do with your life, and automatically all these accolades will come, and you don't have to worry about social acceptance. People will accept you for who you are. Okay, so there are two kinds of society today. Number one, society which is empty, but they need acceptance, so they use social media, and they will do whatever it takes in social media. They will sing, they will dance, they will do whatever it takes for them to be accepted. But there's another group of people who live with purpose. Okay, I want to achieve this in my life. So you will achieve, and then the success will actually come automatically. So do not get illusioned or diluted with all this, acceptance that taking place in social media. But it's okay to have social media. I also got Instagram. I also got Facebook. I also got TikTok. I also got Twitter. I also got LinkedIn. You just name it lah. I also have everything lah. For me, it's just fun. It's nice to have, but it doesn't define my success. Okay.
Okay, Jaja. Hopefully, your question has been answered by Doctor.
It's so comprehensive, sir. Thank you so much, Doctor.
Okay, last question from Sister Fatin, please. Fatin.
Assalamualaikum, Dr. Iskandar. My name is Fatin Hanani from University Science Islam Malaysia. So I want to ask, in your opinion, what should be our contribution as individuals towards the strengthening and balancing the economy and survival during and maybe after the pandemic COVID-19?
Okay, wow, I think that's a very structured and very thoughtful question. Congratulations for asking that, and it's not easy for me to answer juga lah, Fatin, but let me try my level best lah to answer. First of all, you need to understand is that whenever we have an event like COVID-19, it's an epoch. It means that it's a big event. It's an event that have what we call as a structural changes to the way we live and the way that we create policies. Okay, so first of all, you need to understand what is the transition between pre-pandemic and also post-pandemic. I think that's the number one thing that the student must be able to appreciate, because the life post-pandemic will never be the same with the pre-pandemic. Example, people are talking about flexibility. People are talking about working from home. People are talking about more empowerment, more trust, for example. People are now worried about having debt, because they worry that if there is another crisis, we are not able to pay, for example. So the way people looking at uncertainty, the way people defining risk are no longer the same. You see my point? Sebab tu I always said, you must understand how people think, because the moment people think differently, their decision-making process also changes, and that will actually change the economic dimension. For example, your generation kata, Dr. Is, saya tak nak beli rumah. So if you don't buy a house, In Malaysia, for example, our total borrowing is 1.4 trillion ringgit. So if people say they don't want to buy a house and they don't want to buy a car and they don't want to basically have access luxury marriage anymore, so the banking system say, alamak, nobody is borrowing now. Betul tak? Nah, kan? And the banking system will force to divert the resources itu more into productive investment rather than consumer punya tu. So my first answer to your question kan Fatin kan, trying to understand how the behavior will change post-pandemic. Number one. Number two, once you understand the post-dynamic behavior, the second question that you ask yourself is that, okay, what is the opportunity? Okay, what is the opportunity? As a student, right? You must ask yourself, okay, now, okay, I dah figure out, okay, post-pandemic, this is where the direction of the world is. So what should I do? Where should I invest my my resources? Because you are still in your 20s. I always believe that whenever you are working from 20 to 30 years old, you are not getting salary. You are actually making investment. Okay, you are being paid peanuts. Berapa dapat gaji? 3,000, paling kuat pun 4,000. That's not salary. Okay, but that's investment. You are spending your time to learn about things that you love, things that you actually want to be someone in, and you want to basically excel in that area. So make sure you make the right decision when you are in the 20s to 30s, because that is an investment that you are making. And you are allowed to fail many times from 20 to 30. Okay. Okay, so that's number two. Okay, decide which area that you want to go. Okay, jangan rasa, okay Dok, saya nak buat semua benda. Jangan. Tak payah dah. Kita ramai orang. Kat Indonesia je ada 280 juta. So, we don't need everybody to do everything. Choose one area. Fatin orang Malaysia kan? Even kat Malaysia pun Fatin, kita ada 32 juta. So, tak payah. Ngarut je buat semua benda. But you do one thing that you want to. But let me tell you a few things that you can consider lah post-pandemic. Number one, how people interact with technology. Itu pun kita tak tahu lagi. Okay, we haven't figured out already how people actually interact with technology. And number two, for example, how you actually allow the interface with yang you tengok dalam apa komputer dan sebagainya, how basically it define your decision making process. Itu pun kita tak tahu lagi. So there's so many things that actually we do not know how the mindset of the people that got to change. But I can tell you many things later lah. I don't have time right now. Okay, so understand how the decision making and everything. And then the third one, macam I always want to tell you is that choose one area and then go all in. Jangan separuh-separuh. Go all in. If I can tell you in my life kan, you know, I made few mistakes in my life. If I can share with you, young people, and I can end my presentation tu lah. Three things lah yang I rasa if I can be your age again, I will not repeat the same thing. Number one, I will not borrow a lot. Okay, I will try to avoid as much borrowing as possible. Okay, because borrowing stop your freedom. You understand? They stop your freedom. Okay, because you are forced to pay every month, so it stop your freedom. Okay, number two, I would take my job as an investment rather than earning salary. So I go to office, I say, okay, I'm investing in my capability. So I don't look at it as a salary earning position, but it's an investment for me. So I will work wherever I feel that I can get the best investment of my life. That's number two. Number three, I will not try many things. You know, one of the mistakes I did in my life is I cuba semua. I teach finance, I teach economics, you know, I tried this, I tried that, semua I nak cuba. But then it's too late for me to specialize lah. But only lately I realized that okay, we have to focus in certain areas. So maybe I should have done it 10 years ago or whatever it is. So these are the three mistakes that I did in my life, which I think that should not be repeated by younger generation. So that's all lah from me, Dr. Dimas. Okay, enough lah cakap banyak sangat.
Okay, thank you. Terima kasih, Dr. Iskandar, for your motivations and suggestion to us. And we almost finished the time until 9 p.m. or 10 a.m. there. Dr. Iskandar, before we end the sessions, I just want to need your short and humble advice, Dr. Iskandar, just short before we end these sessions. For us, actually, what is the most essential things that we must prepare right now? Just short, Dr. Iskandar, because I want to just stress this one, and I asked to every single guest lectures that we invited, so that this short motivation can be the guidance, particularly from us as the young generation. Dr. Iskandar, please. Okay.
The moment you all using the word young, now I realize that I'm not young anymore. But anyway, okay. I think as a person, we have responsibility to develop our competency. I think that's the most important thing. And competency only come from knowledge, from hard work, from our desire to make a difference. So we need to build our competency. But the most important thing is that once we build our competency, we have a sense of consciousness and also empathy towards our fellow human beings. I think this is very important. Unfortunately, a lot of people today, they don't have these elements of empathy and also consciousness. So there's a vanity, there is an excessive hubris, pride, and all these things are actually destroying the fabric of the society. So what we want is that, for me, one thing I really enjoy being an academician and also researcher is that I have the opportunity to create a better generations. Okay, and that's what I'll continue trying to do. And I hope the people who are listening to me today, 20 years from now, you will be in the position to create even a better generation than what we have today. Because you always remember one thing, life is always about struggle, and this struggle is always about creating a society that capable, that confident to compete at the global stage. Okay, we cannot be just playing at the SEA Games or Asian Games, and say that we are good. If you want to be good, you have to win medal in Olympics. Then you are good, right? So we need to push our standard from being a champion at regional level to the Asian level, and even more importantly at the global level. And the days will come, but we have to do it together, especially with you all, that younger generation. Okay, I think that's all, whatever advice I can give. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Dr. Iskandar, and all participants. Time's very fast. We have been almost 1.5 hours, and we have listened to him so many important material concerning the sustainability issues, as well as the motivations, how we becomes future generations that better and will give a great impact, not only just for ourselves, but also for the ummah or the country and also the society at large. Okay, Dr. Iskandar, I think that's all our sessions today. Very enjoy, and even though today is very late, very night, but the spirit that I feel from the participants look like in the morning. Yeah, so I think because of you, transfer very great and positive channels to us. And I feel that your speak and your motivation given to us here is real. I mean that you really given through your heart, so that we are feeling in our heart as well. With that, let me end the sessions, Dr. Iskandar and all the participants, by reciting Hamdulillah, Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alamin. Thank you, Dr. Iskandar, and all the participants. Stay safe and health. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Waalaikumsalam warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.